You're listening to Articulate with your hosts, Kevin Kramer and Sean Gillespie, your go-to guys for art tips, techniques, and general artist ramblings. Presented by drawingandcoloring.com.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Articulate Podcast.
Last episode this season, as a matter of fact.
The
finale. Last one this season. Season finale.
Season finale.
Season 1.
Right here.
Wrap up.
Took a little
Although
bit
we're not really wrapping up.
No,
just an episode.
Just
but
of this.
Concluding
this
season 1.
Season. All right.
Oh. All right.
All right.
Kevin.
As always, I'm Kevin Kramer. This with me is
Sean Gillespie.
Sean Gillespie.
Nice to meet you. Hi. How's it going? If you're just tuning in.
If you haven't seen him all season.
Right. So what are we doing today, Kevin? We're going to talk about comic books?
I think we're going to talk about comic books. The
right.
5-step process that you need to create a comic book.
Right. Yeah, and it's we're gonna kind of go over it. Some of these steps can be combined, some of them can be limited.
Yeah.
We'll kind of go over that. Really recommend getting you and 4 of your friends to do each step individually.
It can get a little tedious.
It's gonna make it go way quicker for you. But with a computer nowadays, you can also rock this out yourself pretty good. Right. So let's start with step 1.
Yeah. What is step 1?
You gotta write that stuff, man.
Write it down.
Yeah. So
how good of a writer are you? It's
well,
really the question.
If you're not a good writer, you should probably get your friend who is a good writer to write it for you, and then you can be like, I got this idea, man. Guy travels in space, and and then y'all work together.
And he wears a costume.
I will tell you though. So I have a little bit of graphic novel experience myself, Kevin.
Do you?
Yeah, I wrote a script. It was going to be transferred into a graphic novel. That was my plan.
Okay.
And I wrote out a script for it, just like I would like a movie script, because at the time I was in college and I was in a lot of film classes, so that made sense to me to write just the dialogue, because that's what you're going to have in a comic book, is basically a movie script anyway. Yeah. So I wrote it all out, and I got like a 200-page script, and I started transferring that into comic book.
That sounds kind of long.
It is long. Turns out it's really long.
I think
because
most movie scripts are only like 100 pages.
Yeah, they're about 90. Yeah, an hour and a half movie would be, because it's about a minute of movie is a page of script.
Right.
Yeah. And so, but in comic book, the formula is half a page of script is an entire page of comic book. So I got to be about 2 pages in, and it took 4 pages.
So you were like 4 volumes.
Yeah, it was like 4 pages of comic, and it took like 3 or 4 days for me to do each page, and that wasn't even coloring it. So I was like, yeah, this is not going to work. So then I rewrote a shorter one. So my recommendation, start off with a 15-page script. Okay. And that'll be a 30-page comic. That sounds a lot
more manageable.
Yeah, 30-page comic book, which is about going to be your average comic book size. About
they're not
pages.
very... If you flip through them, they're like this thin.
Right.
You just don't realize it.
Yeah, they're super thin.
You're looking at all the artwork.
Yeah, they're about 30 pages. So have a 15-page scripted and 12-point courier, just like you would a movie script, and then that'll help you a little bit.
That sounds
as far as the writing goes.
Sounds like some solid advice.
Solid advice from somebody who
wasted
a whole year writing a bunch of bullshit.
All right.
So then you gotta draw it.
You obviously have to draw it.
You gotta draw it.
That is the step 2.
Yeah, you're gonna need pencils.
Regular old number 2 pencil.
Number 2.
Yellow
mechanical pencil.
Whatever you want to use.
Whatever you want to use. Recommend using Bristol board, because you're going to be inking this later. And Bristol board is going to be thick enough, or a heavy pound paper, so that the ink absorbs without getting wavy.
Right.
Yeah, you don't want to buckle.
Those are good.
What a lot of artists use is they use a non-photo blue pencil lead. And the reason for that is if you draw in that non-photo blue and ink on top of that, you don't have to erase your pencil lines, because when you scan into the scanner, the non-photo blue doesn't show up. That's why it's called non-photo blue.
Interesting. I did not know that. I always wondered why everything was in blue.
Everything's in blue because when they scan into the scanner, it doesn't show up.
Huh. Yep. Where would one get one of these pens?
Well, you could just Google non-photo blue or Amazon for it. They have a lot of them. It's really hard to find one for a mechanical pencil that's like 7 millimeters, but it's pretty easy to get, or 0.07, whatever. The very small leads, right? Or 0.05. It's really hard to get those in non-photo blue, but you can get turquoise leads that if you don't push too hard, they basically are the same as non-photo blue. So that's how I do it. I have when I found one, I bought a big bag of non-photo blue.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah, I've got a huge bag of non-photo blue.
Just like little leads?
Yeah, leads, just tons of them.
Nice. So, I didn't even know about that.
Yeah, it's cool little trick of the trade.
Definitely.
But then the other thing though is that a lot of people now don't even draw by hand on the paper anymore. They draw right on the computer using a Wacom tablet.
Exactly. That's something that you do a lot more than I do.
Yeah, I don't.
I would like to get into
I
it.
like the tactile experience of drawing on paper, so I don't do it as much as I still scan a lot.
Right.
But yeah, every now and again, if I'm trying to save time, I'll go ahead and just draw.
Yeah.
And all that.
The more like band posters and things I use, the more I can see how having a Wacom would be beneficial.
Yeah,
but
it's handy.
Still like clicking with a mouse.
Yeah,
it's not
no,
cool.
you can't do it with a mouse. That's a bad idea.
That is
It's
really
gonna
bad.
give you the carpal tunnel.
Right. Well, and you can get like pressure sensitive and make weird faces like that. I don't know what that's
That's what
about.
people do with the computer.
Is that what they do? They go.
Click, 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 click. Yeah, you don't want to do that. You need a Wacom tablet so you can look cool.
Yeah, I think I just sit there like this.
Like this. Yeah? Like
that-
Darth Vader
yeah.
and his little thing where the helmet comes down.
That's exactly how I sit.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'll
Nice.
sit that way so long I just get sick. That's
Right?
why it's no good.
It's no good.
No good. Get a
See our-
Wacom tablet.
See our podcast on ergonomics.
Yes, that's a
For
good
that.
one.
So that actually brings us to step 3. So we got writing, and then we got the drawing. You know,
Right.
we're breezing through this. Obviously, this is not as easy as it sounds.
10,000
but we're
foot
giving-
level.
Yeah, we're giving you the steps.
This is what the components
yeah,
of
these are
what
the
you would need
components.
to think about,
Think about it and do it.
and think through if you
Right.
needed to draw a comic book
And if-
tomorrow.
All right, and of course there are a lot of books on this subject, so definitely go out.
Right.
We've got Idiot's Guide to Graphic Novel right here.
That's a good one.
But what's really great, well, I'm gonna jump ahead as while
Sure.
we're on required reading, is DC Comics comes out with these guides every couple years, and there's like the digital drawing comics is this one,
cool.
and then coloring and lettering comics. Now these are probably a couple years old and they're a little outdated at this point.
Yeah.
But they keep current with like Photoshop information, how to work with Photoshop, and they keep current with how they're doing it today.
Yeah.
So it's really, really good
And
information.
that even kind of jumps ahead even further,
further.
to
Even more into the future.
to study other comics.
Yeah.
Study other comic books. DC Comics, I think Alex Ross is one of those big ones from DC Comics. He did that more realistic Superman that you see. Does like all of the DC comic characters
man.
are like super
Hey,
like,
you tell me.
humanistic.
I was a Marvel guy.
They're realistic.
What can I say? But their DC's books on making comics
Right.
are amazing.
Well, I like to draw realistic stuff. I saw his
Alright,
stuff. It's like that's not real comic
I'm
book
not
stuff.
knocking DC. I'm just,
Just saying.
I'm just saying.
All right.
So step 3. So
So-
we have writing. Step 1, drawing. Step 2,
2.
which you can do on paper or on
Or
the computer.
on a computer.
And recommended if you do it on paper to use non-photo blue
Right.
pencil.
And Bristol board.
All right, Bristol board. And then
3, which could arguably probably be the most important.
it depends if you're watching Chasing Amy. It is. That's if you're watching that movie, that guy will tell you it is. What's that?
He adds the depth.
He adds the depth.
He
I add
gives it.
depth to what is there.
Adds
Right.
the entire emotion.
Right. So inking. Now
Inking
inking is inking is a make or break step in the comic book world, and it's
It is.
the importance of it is undermined quite a bit. And I've seen some artist sketches before they're inked, and a lot of times I gotta say the inker is really doing
Just
a lot of the work
screws it up.
because he's actually doing a lot of the
Well, you
work
can
because a
screw it
lot
up
of
really
times
easy,
the
too.
artist is like, and then there's a face here, and just figure out what's over here, and the inker's like, I guess I'll just figure it out with my brush.
just black
So they
that
are
out.
very talented. It's easy to kind of like on Chasing Amy how they
Right.
kind of make fun of the inker. Oh, you're a tracer?
You're a
Is
tracer.
that what you do?
So you
He's
trace.
like, no, I adapt.
Exactly.
Right, and that's what we're quoting. But if you haven't seen the movie, it's rated R, kids. So wait until you're 18.
Get your
But-
permission from your
Right,
parents.
get permission slip from your parents. But anyway, that's a running joke in that story. But there are a few ways people are inking these days. One is the computer, like we mentioned. They're just
That's going to be ubiquitous with any art.
exactly, and a lot of times they're tracing over lines that are already drawn. Well, actually, what they're doing is they're drawing with pencil a lot, and then in Photoshop, they're kicking up the darkness of the pencil so dark that it becomes a
Right.
black and white
Right, just
image.
the
Yeah, the
contrast.
levels.
Yeah.
And then going over those and kind of inking, or they'll just select the black so that with the magic wand tool so that it creates the little lines that are different thicknesses for you, and then they just fill in those lines.
I've also seen, just whenever you're doing the straight digital, it was actually a tutorial I saw somewhere. They'll draw it out, and then they'll mask or they'll outline the lines.
Yeah.
And they'll create another layer of just the lines.
Right, that's what I do. Yeah.
And that, then they can just manipulate it.
That way you can color underneath, too, without affecting your black line on top.
Goes again into the future.
Yeah, which is really handy. Step. Right. But the other way to do it, if you want to go a little old school, and I actually prefer this way, is to ink with on paper.
Right.
Because I like to do that using a sable brush and India ink, because that's going to give you
old school.
Yeah, it's real old school. But this using the brush and actually the guy who did Bone, the comic book Bone, which is a real famous comic book, but he did the entire comic book, which it's years and years of comic books. I think it was like 11 years of making this comic book, and the book is like this thick. But
it's like yours.
Yeah, it's just like mine. But he used a sable for the entire thing, and you can really tell just the thickness and the thinness and just how it gives all this this character to the line. That's really beautiful. So if you use that, because you don't want to use, a lot of people think, oh, I'll just get my Micron pen and go at it. But if you
those
use,
are going to be, those don't have any, like you said, style.
Yeah, they have no depth. Like it's going to be a uniform line.
Right. There's no character to the line.
Exactly.
And
and then you want that. You want different thicknesses and different thinnesses. You can use those for like, little hatch marks in the corners and things like that. But I would recommend that you use a brush for the thicker areas. That way you get.
There's brushes. There's also, I've seen the famous those Copic markers. Those have like really broad. They actually have the pen tip edges on them. Those are another.
And some calligraphy type you can play with that kind of stuff a lot and kind of probably get a unique look. But yeah, I would recommend mix matching.
You find your own style.
But find your own style. But don't discount the squirrel hair sable. That's what you want. Yeah, you want to get a squirrel hair because those really hold the ink really well.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
The painter.
They're beautiful. No, squirrel hair sable, man. That's where it's at. I'm telling you. But so we inked it, and lettering. Now, for that, you do want to use a Micron pen, because you want your line for lettering to be clean and crisp and uniform.
Right.
And you may also want to use an Ames guide for that. Ames guide is this weird little tool that has a circle in the middle and a bunch of dots poked in it, and you can buy these online too. And it basically helps you figure out where you're going to put each letter. Basically like a guide, how you were in elementary school when you had to write your letters and you had the little dot. Yeah, you had the dotted line. The teacher would draw it and you had to write the letters. And that, the A has the line that goes through it at the middle bar. This basically does that for you.
Interesting.
But with lettering, just like everything else, you can do that on the computer now.
Which would be a lot simpler.
Yeah, they have comic book fonts and things, but a lot of purists out there, they recognize a comic book font when you use one, and they don't like it.
Well,
so
if you're just starting, I think it's okay to play around with it, get some ideas.
It's probably okay, but you can also create your own font. There's a lot of programs to create your own font. That way, it's a combination of the two. You're getting your own style, but you're not having to sit there and write it every time. You can just type it up. Or you can do like Frank Miller, and he just writes it, and he's like, I'm not using an Ames guide, I'm just writing it in caps, and look, my art's so amazing, you don't even care that my letters are not. Right. So I gotta say, his letters, they're not as beautiful as the rest of the comic book, but you don't notice because the rest is so great.
Right. Because he's a great director.
Oh.
Well,
Robert Rodriguez directed.
Well, he did it because it was already shot.
Oh, that's true. Well,
it was already storyboarded.
Well, that's the thing, is comic books are basically storyboards.
Exactly.
So that's why a lot of comic books, I think, get turned into movies, is because it's like, okay, we already have a visual storyboard. Yeah, this is what we got to do. It's like cut out their process.
Right. So. And it's already lit using the inking.
Using the inking.
You don't even have to think or figure out the lighting.
Right. So that's what, step 4?
So we got writing.
Step 3.
We have writing.
Writing.
Then we have the drawing aspect. Then
inking.
The inking and the lettering.
Yep. Recommend a sable squirrel.
Sable squirrel.
You'll thank me for that.
You will.
You will.
4th is the
India ink. Use India ink. And 4th is coloring.
Coloring, yes.
For this, computer
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not even try to. I mean, you can use colored markers. A lot of times they use like Prismacolor markers.
The Prisma or the Copic would be the only ones I could recommend on that.
Yeah, and then a lot of times with the Prismacolor markers, you use those, but then you also take like formaldehyde and you dip it in. It's not formaldehyde, but you take like gasoline. I've heard of people taking gasoline and stuff like that, and dipping Q-tips in it and rubbing it in the markers to give it like these
wavy.
We'll give it like a blend effect and things like that. And turpentine, you can use all these solvents and mineral spirits and things like that. You can go crazy with markers if you know what you're doing. I've never done it either because it's a pain in the butt.
I think if you just use it stroke by stroke, you'd be all right.
I would just scan that crap into the computer and color it on the computer, because what happens is you're like, damn, why didn't I make that blue? Well, on a computer, you're like, ain't no thing. Now it's blue.
Right.
Booyah.
And that goes into scanning it and then getting that outline layer, I said.
Absolutely. And the way to do that...
that is actually key.
Yeah, this is going to be way more detailed than we meant to get on this, but this took me a long time to figure out, so I'm going to share it. If you are scanning your inked drawing into the computer and you're using Photoshop and you want to separate, because it's probably going to scan in, unless you have a real fancy scanner and fancy software. If you have a fancy software, you can scan it in as a bitmap and the lines should be separate from the background already. But if you don't, like me, then your line is going to be a JPEG.
Right.
So the way you would separate it is if you go into the channels section and you just copy the blue channel down, then go into levels and make the blue channel really dark, then you can load selection. You load that copy blue channel. Right? And then when you do that, you're going to choose load selection, blue channel, and choose inverse. And when you do that, it's going to be all, digitally, like it's all selected how it is.
The
little snake lines. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
The little ant trail.
Yeah, the little ant trail. And then you're like, oh shit, what's going on? I messed it all up. But grab your old paintbrush or your paint bucket, select black, and fill in that selected area.
Yeah.
On a new layer.
Right.
And now you've got a new layer with that blue channel that you created, filled in, totally black,
clean outline,
crisp, clean, on top of your other background, which you want to leave, and then you can go underneath on that layer and just color it all in, and it's just like jelly, baby.
Yeah.
It's so nice.
It is pretty nice.
You're just sitting there coloring, and that black line is on top of it, and it's like, you don't touch me.
I didn't get quite like that, but...
and you're just like, yeah, baby. And it's nice. So do that.
See, when I did it, I went...
It's exciting. I get passionate.
That's pretty damn nice.
Yeah, it is.
I didn't get all like that.
Oh, it's nice.
I didn't like, what?
I get very excited. Well, it took me a long time to figure. I had to figure this out myself. I didn't have an amazing podcast that I could watch and people just tell me.
It's true.
So, not that I just called myself amazing, but I did.
Step 5.
Step 5
is to
print
that bitch.
Print it up.
You gotta get it out.
Now a lot of people are like, because that's how people talk. Yeah. But
I don't know how to print.
I don't either. I'd take that to Kinko's and be like, print this, make a comic book out of it.
Put like the little black stripes through it, and then you get like a portfolio
and things like that. But it's super easy nowadays, like because a lot of people want to print comic books. So like if you go to lulu.com, they have self-printing, and one of their options for their book type is comic book. So basically you load up a PDF or whatever format they allow, and they'll print up your comic book for you.
Well, you know what another easy way to do is to there's a lot of web comics.
Exactly.
That's a
good point.
It's like underground. It's going to be ramping up soon.
You don't even have to print nowadays. You just be like, okay, I drew it, and I colored it, and I inked it, and you don't even necessarily have to do all that. Nowadays, I've seen some webcomics where they just draw it, scan it, and then put it on the web. And you can do that. That's all right. It's whatever you want.
I've seen some where it's just stick figures.
Yeah, they are. Some of them are.
And they're actually pretty decent.
Yeah, not to me. I hate them. No.
But the idea of putting it on paper, scanning it, and having it online for other people to consume it within a day.
Within a day. It's like, boom, instantly.
Easy. Money.
Yeah. But if you want it to look good and you don't want to spend the rest of your life doing it,
get a team of people, put them together.
Put a team. You and your buds. and delegate. Get each your little workload, because comic books is work, man. People don't realize how much work goes into that. And they're like, oh, but new Incredible Hulk comes out every month. Incredible Hulk has like 20 people working on it. There is a team of people doing that.
I guarantee you know somebody who likes to write.
Yeah.
Somebody who likes to draw. People.
Yeah.
Somebody who loves the color.
Somebody. Everybody.
And somebody who knows tech shit.
Somebody know tech? I don't know. Maybe.
That's all you need.
I don't know why I'm talking like that.
I don't know why you need that.
I don't need. I don't know.
But that's all you need right now.
That's all you need.
That's all you need.
And that's it, man. That's comic books. And it's super easy. And you can pick and choose and play with what you want best, but Squirrel Hair Saber is going to save you.
Squirrel Saber.
I can't talk. Squirrel Hair Sable.
Sabertooth.
Sable.
A squirrel-haired
sable. Hair sable
will make your comics more depthful.
Make them magic.
Depthful?
It's such a nice paintbrush. I bought, when you find a good paintbrush, buy 5 of them, and because that's what I did. When I got one I liked, I went back there and I bought like 5 or 6 of them, and I've got like 5, and I've gone through one so far. So I'm a little nervous.
I haven't.
But
I've never gone through a paintbrush.
Oh yeah, you gotta be careful. The problem with it is, you know, after a while, no matter how careful you are, you know, they're gonna wear out. Get a little warped, and when you're inking something that precise, any little warp is gonna be a problem for you.
Well, if you're getting if you're getting a brush for that, you don't want to use that for paint or anything else. You want to use it specifically with ink. For
India ink, yeah. Right. Yeah. And India ink specifically, you want to use a waterproof India ink. Right. Because if you use other types of inks, they may not, you'll get kind of a grayish color or a blue color as opposed to a pure black. Yeah. And that's a problem. You don't want a blue tinted ink at all.
Cool. So, all right. So those are the 4, 5?
5. Boom. If we count printing, which we said could be online. Could be. And you have a lot of
all of these options besides writer. That's it, really.
Drawing. You got to draw it. Well, otherwise, it's
all
not
of those
a comic.
could be digital.
Oh yeah, okay. I thought you were gonna say that they could just not do it.
I mean, you could write it on a computer.
You were gonna say, like, you don't have to do any of these except writing it.
I mean, you could do them all on a computer, but as far as writing, that's not really.
You could write on a computer. I use Word all the time. I don't know how you're writing, Mr. Typewriter.
I went in a. I like to click it.
Click. Yeah.
All of it could be done digitally, or it could all be done offline. It's really to you.
What you're comfortable with.
You might be more traditional, might be more digital.
Yeah. You might be a little country. Might be a little rock and roll.
Just like everything.
Yeah. So pick what works for you.
Right.
But those are your options, and those are the proven, tried and true methods from people who have done it.
Right.
So, and that's all we can give you.
With that, what method would you prefer to use to draw? What do you normally choose? Are you digital or are you more traditional? Yeah. We want to hear from you.
Tell us
in the comments below. Let us know if you're watching this on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button right above his head.
It's over here.
Right there.
Right there.
He's pointing at it.
Pointing at it.
If you're listening to us on iTunes, hit that subscribe button as well.
It's here.
So you can keep up with us. And as we said in the beginning, this is
our season finale.
Season finale.
Season 1
of
in the bag. Season 2, we got some amazing things coming for you. We're going to talk a little bit about color theory.
Color theory.
We're going to talk about some artist profiles. Get some interviews coming up for you, probably.
A lot of stuff in the bag.
Things, man. You don't even know what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Because we don't even know. No, we do know. It's going to be magical.
And it's going to be elevated.
Mm-hmm. We're going to kick it up a notch.
Yeah.
Next season.
Going to utilize this video.
Yeah.
Going to take it up.
So tune in.
So make sure you keep tuned in and hit all of those subscribe buttons. And always check us out on articulatepodcast.com for any of the recommended readings that we mentioned.
Yeah.
And especially these, we'll be put those up there for you. Mm-hmm. And we will see you next season.
You've been listening to Articulate with Kevin and Sean. Subscribe on iTunes or check them out on drawingandcoloring.com. Always reminding you to keep it simple.